Next lesson with Roy Palma. Roy, can you talk a little bit? We cannot hear you yet. Say something. Say something. You're on mute somewhere, or maybe wrong.
Hello, hello.
Yes, now we can hear you. Yes, great.
That's better.
Yes.
My technical end of things.
Of course, it's not easy.
Right. Hopefully, there we go. I'll look at that one. First of all, Lydia's asked me to put on this Theremini workshop, which I feel extremely honoured and very humbled by. I'm going to start with something really, really basic and then build up. The big thing with the Theremini, which I don't know whether many of you had this same problem, when I first heard it, I thought, wow, I've got to have one of these. Bought it, waved my hands around, made some amazing sounds, and then started to find that I wasn't getting out of it as much as I could. So I delved into the instruction books and found that there's a lot more you can do with it than perhaps you realise, and that the books give you to understand. But the first thing that, in fact, Lydia showed me this. When you get your Theremini, you've got this antenna for the pitch, which sits underneath. When you fit it to your Theremini and you put it into the little hole, always make sure it's clicked nicely into your Theremini. The other thing is, I use mine with a mic stand, and on the bottom there's a mic adapter, little screw thread there, and this mic stand I use is this, which has folding legs and is adjustable in height. I know in some parts of the world the thread for the mic is different. It's this wider, and you need to buy an adapter that goes on there, fits in there. So what I'm going to do very quickly, as I say, I'm going right back to basics here, but I think sometimes it's worth doing that to get the most from your instrument. And that screws in. I tend to play either sitting or standing. If I'm standing, I adjust it so that when my arms are at a nice comfy level position, and tighten that up, and then I have a stool for sitting. I use a small analog mixer with my Theremini, which is down here, and that goes to a little digital interface there, and that plugs into the Mac. I use a guitar cable into one of the outputs, and that gives you a mono feed. I use a USB cable into the back, which connects it to the computer. We'll get to that later. And then the other thing we need is the power cable. Okay. Now, most of the things I'm going to show you today are going to be to do with the menus on the Theremini itself. And to help you see what I'm doing, I've got this other camera set up. I hope this all makes sense for you. Okay, and I do hope you can see this.
Roy,
Yeah.
just one question, a quick question with me while you are setting up. So it works anyway with a guitar cable,
Yeah, you can
with an amplifier, and that's it, just for the starting point.
Yes, you can use it without any amplification. What I would say is the loudspeaker in the top of the Theremini isn't the best thing there is. So headphones tend to be the best way to listen to it. You'll get really good sound quality through headphones. The speaker is okay. You don't need extra amplification. If you do want to use amplification, it's really important to get an amp which has really good frequency response. And there we go. Hopefully you can see the upside down camera. Don't know why that's turned upside down. That's blown everything completely. 1 second. I may have to abandon this in a minute. Okay. There we go. There we go. You can see that's now the right way up. Yeah. So imagine there's no amplifier connected, and you've got here, you've got your volume control, which affects the volume coming out of the loudspeaker and the headphone socket. You've got pitch correction, which Pamelia talked about earlier. And pitch correction, what it does is wherever your hand is, it finds the nearest note to that position. And as she described it, it's like having training wheels on a bicycle. Then you've got your effect button, and you press this effect here, and you should see there that preset 17. I'm going to stick this onto preset number 1, okay, which is the classic Theremin side. And it comes here with a preset delay. And you can control the amount, and you can change the effect to a short delay, a medium delay, and a long delay. But what we need to do before we start playing is think about the calibration. I'm sure you've read about this and think, oh, pain in the backside. But there's also a lot of other things in the menus that I'm going to run through. So if we're going to calibrate, we press setup and root, and we get into this calibration. What I've done is I've amended the calibration time down to 1 second to save me a lot of time. Now it says here move 4 feet, 1.5 meters away. You don't really need to go that far away. You can just lean backwards, just so your arms and your body is just a few feet away. And then I press that, and in a second it's programmed itself to the room. Now it says hold your hand near the pitch antenna, so I put my hand as close as I want, and I just leave a tiny little gap, hit setup, then I bring my arm back to my body. I'm having to stand behind this computer, the iPad, but you would normally bring that just to sort of your shoulder level. Press that. Okay, and that's programmed a range between there and there. Volume hand, don't touch the volume antenna, just leave a little gap, and then that's the quietest it will play, and then bring your hand up, and that's the loudest I want it. Now at the moment obviously you can't hear anything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the setup menu and show you why. If you press setup and setup and effect will get you out of a menu. So setup and scale. You see there the master volume is on 0. It happens to do that every now and again. If you suddenly find there's no volume out of your Theremini, go into the setup menu and check the master volume, and if you turn the preset control, there we go, to 100%, you can now hear that. Okay, I'm just going to turn that down for a moment, and if we click through these setups now, here's an interesting little shortcut. If you press setup and turn presets, you can actually scroll not only forward through menus but backwards. That's the only way you can do that. And you can see here my note range is set from C2 to C7. Well, I prefer it C2 to C6, so I'm just going to turn that high note to C6. What that's done is the positions we programmed earlier, nearest, furthest away, now the nearest note will be C6 and the lowest note will be C2. Okay, now I've also have mine set so that when my hand is away from the antenna, it will mute. You have this problem of the Theremini not switching off and it going zzz, and you have to drop a cable over the volume antenna. By putting that on, that gets rid of that problem. So if we now, the tuning, the A440, if you want to tune it to a different pitch of another instrument like a piano that's slightly off or orchestra, you can change that too. Now, MIDI CV I'll probably do in the next workshop tomorrow, so I'm going to go quickly through to what I think is one of the best parts about the Theremini setup. Sorry. I'm just going to again scroll through these, and then you press effect, and we're going to go through this lot very quickly. I'm not going to change anything here because we'll do that tomorrow, but in this advanced setup menu we press effect, and I've got the response set at fast. That is the response of the antenna to your hand movements. I've got that set at fast. It works for me. There's a medium and a slow, but it means that as you move your hand, the antenna is picking that movement up quicker. Calibration wait time, you can see there, I hope, I've got set to 1 second. That's why I took less time to calibrate. The thing that I want you to have a look at is Theremin mode, and switch that on. You can switch it off and on. This is the thing that's going to make a huge difference to the way you play. Now there's a couple of other things here in the advanced setup. One of the biggest issues I had, and I only overcame this a few weeks ago, when you load all the different presets, they all seem to come with a different scale. And if, like me, you're brought up on a very basic chromatic scale, da 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 da, these other scales freak you out a bit and you're not quite sure what to do. If you go into this advanced setup menu, you can actually keep the scale that you set on a preset, and then it won't change when you change presets. So if you have preset 1, the Theremini, and you set it to chromatic, if you say, this says load from preset correction amount, well, I don't want to load any correction amount. I want it to stay unpitch corrected. I want the scale and the root not to be the scale and root that it's selected, but the one I've already used. The effect mix I tend to keep on because a lot of the presets come with really nice delays and things. Okay. Contrast is just the contrast on the screen, and we're back to the classic Theremin sound. And you can see there it says Ionian. Okay, so I'm going to change that to the chromatic scale. Now, you saw there I was pressing the scale button. Another shortcut you can use, press and hold scale, and you rotate the presets button and it jumps through those scales, and then we turn it until we get to chromatic. Okay, now I've switched the iPad off because I'm going to do a few more things now with closer. So that's coming out of the speaker on the top. Okay, and I've unplugged the guitar cable, so I'm going to put that back in now and feed it so that you should get a nice clean sound. Stop screen sharing. Any questions so far? I've gone a bit quick there, I know. Can't see any waves. Okay, so at the moment I've got the long delay switched on. If I press the effect button, I can switch that to off. The preset, the one that was with it, which is obviously a multiple delay, short delay, medium, and long, which is quite nice. But you remember we switched on Theremin mode earlier. If you now press setup, the display on your Theremin changes and you get the little line with the note right at the top, the name of the preset. But then you get something called pitch and volume with little arrows either side. What's happened now is the controls have been changed, and the amount control is now a volume control for the output that your jack is connected to. So I'm turning the amount control down and up, and that gives you volume control over this output. The speaker control is separate but still follows that. Okay, the other thing it does, now we're in this Theremin mode, is just going to turn the delay off. I'm going into theremin mode. The pitch correction control is now like the tuning control on an ether wave. What can do is,
Recording in progress.
the further round you turn it, the higher. So you can fine tune. Someone is unmuted, I think. I'm getting a delay. Is it Ben? Anyway, so this pitch correction control is now fine tuning like an ether wave. So when you want to get that closer spacing of your octaves, turn the pitch correction control further up. Sorry, I could do with some unmuting. There's a couple of people unmuting and it's causing me a bit of a headache with the delay. Thank you. So the pitch correction control is now. So I turn it. What you have to watch out for, if you turn this too far down, you get this thing called go through zero. And it'll go back up again. But because I've got the mute switched on, it's actually muting it. Now, we were talking earlier on about the things where I switched off the pitch correction and the note settings. If I now go to, there's no pitch correction on that, and it's the chromatic scale, but it's got the preset. So it's a bit more playable. I pretend to be a police car.
Roy?
Yeah.
Roy, one question. So you said better to have, I understood you for the whole time, and then about the scale, when I'm in the setup of a theremin mode and etc., maintaining all the setup in the advanced setup, and then you said scale, which kind of range should I use? 4 octave, 5 octaves, whatever octaves?
When you've got it, when you've pressed the setup button and you're in theremin mode and you've got pitch and volume displayed, you can really use as many as you like. What I found with some of the presets is you want a bit higher pitch, so I change it to say 5. So if I change that now to, it's taking my higher note further up. Personal preference. I find as I'm flicking through the presets, I tend to go for the one that I like the sound of. My favourite thing to do is to jam along to some music, and I tend to use that to learn to find notes and keys, and sometimes I found with some of the presets they're not high enough, so I just hit that scale button till I've got 5 or 6, and it just gives me those extra couple of high notes.
So you're saying try and to see what you like the most.
Yeah.
But as for as a beginner of Theremini, you would say, hey, try to with the 4 octaves and is good.
Yeah.
Just as a starting point.
Yeah, I think as a starting point, you want to be able to manage this thing, okay? And the problem with the Theremini is it has so many menus, so many variables. Too many. It's like when you buy a new washing machine or a new TV and you're trying to tune it to every new channel. It's, the book is, hopeless. With the Theremini, it's kind of the same. It's the book kind of helps, but the problem with the book is it's actually in 2 parts, and you don't get the second part with the Theremini. You only get the book that comes with it. The thing I didn't mention, which I need to go back over, is the firmware, the software. If you have a Mac, you have Mojave or Big Sur. If you have a PC, you have Windows 10. In a Mac, in a Theremini, it has firmware, which is like its operating system. And the latest version is called 1.1.1, and that's the one I'm using here. quickest way to find out if you have that, if you switch your Theremini off, hold setup and press the button again to switch it on, it will tell you the firmware version. Mine says version 1.1.1. Let go of setup, and it's gone back to the last setting, which was that lovely in orbit sound. Okay. If you don't have version 1.1.1, then you can download it from the Moog website, and if enough people ask, I'll go through it, but it's a long, slow process. You have to download a couple of bits of software, you have to clear everything out of your Theremini and reload it with this version 1.1.1, but it is worth it because it gives you all those extra functionality that I've just been going through with you. Anybody else got a question? Unfortunately, I can't keep reading the text messages that keep picking up. So if you have a question, do ask. Go on. Yeah, Rick.
Just kind of in response to her question with the range and the transpose, think about what it is you want to play, what type of music you're going to play. If you want to use the Theremini as kind of a bass instrument, well, you don't need 7 octaves. You may only need 1 or 2. And then you use the transpose to lower the pitch into the lowest range possible. Where if you're playing a more varied melody with big jumps in octaves, maybe you do need 7 octaves or 6 octaves. And maybe you need to transpose up to play the higher notes. So that's one way to decide how to choose those settings, is what's the music that you want to play? What range do you need to accomplish that?
Absolutely, yeah. The other advice I would give people, if you don't have a mic stand, you don't have an amplifier, and you just want to put it on a surface, make sure when it's on a table that the volume antenna is clear of the edge of the table. Okay, so if your table sort of finishes here and that's overhanging the side, if you're going to put it on some books or something else, try and get it, at the end of the day, if it hurts, don't do it. You want to be comfortable when you're with your Theremin or Theremini. This is why sometimes I stand, sometimes I sit, getting on a bit now, so occasionally I do have to sit down. The other thing is have fun with it. You know, everything I'm saying to you today is not a rule, it's advice, it's guidance, it's tips that I've picked up along the way. There are some terrific sounds in here. One of my favourites, and one of a few others here, I mean Wondertron. And then this lovely preset 12, all your bass. I'm sure Pamelia's walking bass would be amazing with this. Don't know how much of that comes over on the speakers in your place, but a couple of walls have just fell over here. That's square wavy. There are so many great presets, but by switching off in the menu, that load the presets, pre-programmed scale and pitch correction, you make it more playable because it's now chromatic scale. It's the scales that most of us grew up with, and it's something I'm quite comfortable with. If you want to go into something deeper and try these other scales, great, fine. They're all there if you want them. I didn't want them, I wanted it easy to play, and that's what I'm trying to share with you now. Now, unfortunately, what you can't do with the Theremini just as it is, without any speakers connected, without any computer, is change those presets. You get 32 with it when you buy it, and that's it, that's all you get, and all you can do is adjust the effects. The problem with being in Theremin mode, and Greta and I were discussing this some time ago, is you can't change the effect easily, because as soon as you press setup and go to the non-Theremin mode screen, the pitch correction kicks back in. Hopefully it won't, but if you're quick you can get rid of it. So if I now, you can hear there that there's some effects on that. If I want to turn them off, I need to press setup and go to the original screen, turn the amount control down, and that's gone. And then if I press setup and turn my amount control back up, I've got the volume. And if I want to bring the effect back in, hit that setup button. And here we go. Couldn't quite do it that time, but it's something it takes a bit of practice of switching the buttons, doing things really quickly and then switching back. There is an extra bit of software that you can add, and might just about have time to cover it. You can get from Moog an editor. Okay, you connect your Theremini to your computer, you download this editor, you open it up, and I'll go through that in a minute, and that gives you some extra presets and some extra functionality. But before I go on to that, I just want to make sure there aren't any other questions, because I've kind of rattled off a lot of info on the menus and settings. If you've got any questions, please shout up. Okay, so let me have a look at this. Let me see if I can share screen here. Okay, so share screen. Get rid of that. Okay. Right, down here, Launchpad, Theremini editor. Can everybody see that? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Cool. Right. It can be a bit complicated and a bit daunting, this, but I'm going to try and show you some of the really neat little tricks that it has. So I'm just going to close this menu option, and what you've got here is this side here are the presets on this right hand side that are in the Theremini itself already. So the classic Theremini sound, all your bass, and you can actually select them from here. Okay. Now on this side you have this library presets button. Hit that and you go to a library. Now I've actually built up a library thanks to Rick, who shared a few things, and a few other places. When you download the editor, you get this editor factory list here. Okay, now I've just highlighted that there, and I'm going to switch that off, and you'll see they've all arrived on this left hand side. And if I hit reel to reel, I've got that preset. If I zip over to here, so I've now got access to 64 sounds instantly, very quickly. Obviously you need a computer for this. And so your weird and wonderful sounds are now doubled. Now, Rick kindly found these RCA Theremini presets, which I've got here in the library. So now I'm going to cheat. I've got effects on my mixing desk down here. So I've now got these 14 Theremini RCA presets, and over here the original presets there, but the effects I'm using from my mixing desk. You can. Sorry, say again.
Roy, sorry if I disturb you again.
No.
I beg your pardon. So this kind of software that is interacting with your Theremini, you were be able to download it from directly from Moog site?
Yes.
Fantastic.
The editor works with Windows 10, I'm fairly certain. But unfortunately for us Mac owners, it doesn't work with the very newest Mac operating system, Big Sur. So I've got a laptop here which has still got Mojave on it, but it gives me the option to use the editor. Now you can.
There's also an iPad version.
Yeah, there's an iPad version, but I think the iPad version only works with older iPads, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I think it's true. And you'll need an adapter, because obviously the iPad has that funny little lightning connector. I don't have one in here at the moment. Oh, I do. There comes with this, the little thing that goes in the bottom of your phone or iPad, and at the other end is a USB. You need to adapt that lightning connector to the socket on the back of your Theremini. There, I think the Apple one is like 30 UK pounds. Amazon might do something cheaper. But that gives you this extra functionality and the ability to store and edit presets. But what you can do, and this is something I found recently, you can create your own library. Okay, so if you go to a library preset, what I've done here is I've created a list with my favourite sounds on. Okay, if I click that, I've got Super Fat Saw, Wondertron, Audio Bass, and that RCA. So if I'm doing a gig, and those are the only 4 sounds I'm going to use, and I want to flick between them quickly, song to song, Super Fat Saw, Audio Bass. But the other thing is, you hear then that the pitch correction was on. If you see here on this display, the pitch correction control is here. And I can turn it off there. So I'm still in Theremin mode. I can still use the pitch correction control on the Theremin itself for that fine tuning. You remember how I could squeeze the notes, change the range here, and use the pitch correction on the editor to do what I want. So it gives you an extra set of controls, increases the functionality, increases the capability of your Theremini. And that's always been the problem with the Theremini, I think, for a lot of people, is not playing it but driving it, getting the settings organised and finding where things are and why does it do this all of a sudden and all that kind of stuff. Playing, same technique as a Theremin, pitch, volume, same technique. The issue is the distance here is a bit shorter, okay, between the two hands, because obviously on an Etherwave Pro it's quite a good distance. If you want to get a bit of extra space, what I sometimes do is I actually just turn the Theremini slightly, so now this end is closer to you and this end is closer to me, and I've just got a bit more room. Okay, just a little trick that I found recently after a workshop. The other thing, so to create this library of presets, if you go to this library manager and say new, okay, and we'll call that set list, okay, and we'll say okay. Oh, we'll call it set list 2 then, shall we? So new, shows how many times I've done this. Set list 2, okay, and we load that. Sorry, I'm going to cancel that. We don't load it, we just click here, and this on this side is empty. Okay, I'm going to turn that down for a minute. So what I can now do is I can drag sounds from this side, the Theremini preset column, into this library preset. So we'll have that one, and we'll leave it named that. We'll have Charlie Moot, okay, Wondertron, all your hits and more, Shaken, okay, and Wahinium. So that might be 5 presets I'm going to use in a gig tonight. I can save that. Oh, sorry. I can now go to the library manager, and you see here setlist 2 has those in it. So if I go to the original factory presets, they're now here, and if I go back to here, go to setlist 2, there we go. So it just increases, you know, because sometimes you don't want to be having to whiz through loads of presets to find the one you want. You want to create your own shortcut, your own list of presets that you like to use, because you may never play. There might be half of these that you never play. Like me, you might just pick a few interesting ones. So that's how to use the kind of library management side of the Theremini editor. The other thing you can do on here is you can change a lot of the sounds, not all of them. So if we switch classic Theremini on, okay, if you go here to the waveform, you can change the waveform. And we can mess around with these controls, but you can see they're greyed out, so they're not actually doing anything. Okay, when they're greyed out you can't do anything, but if we go to ether wave, I'm just going to reduce the scale a bit, up to 4 octaves. Okay, we can change these controls. And then we can save those settings if we want to and create a new sound library of our own. I won't go into too much detail there because there's only 15 minutes left. But what you can do as well as all of this, I'm just going to go to here. And you can see here, like I said earlier, we've got this doubling of controls. So I go back to the classic Theremin sound. And because the controls have changed function when I'm in this Theremin mode, if I now want to change the delay, I can do it here. So if I turn up the amount, and the type, so again, the editor, if you have the access to a laptop, computer or whatever, and you can get onto Moog's site and download this, gives you another set of tools, another way of controlling the instrument. You don't have to have it, but it does give you that extra functionality, which is what I was trying to show you here. The other thing to be aware of, and a couple of people have had this issue, and I've had this issue with ether waves and other Theremins, is they are prone to electronic interference. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a minute. And what tends to happen then is you get a buzz, you get a vibration, sometimes you get vibrato when you don't want it. So it's always a good idea to make sure when you plug your Theremini in, you've got a good socket to plug it into that's got a good clean earth. You might find there's a weird sound. It could be anything from the Wi-Fi router in your house, so move away from it. It could be, in my home, I've got a wireless doorbell, and that interferes if I'm in the wrong room. Sometimes iPhone, iPad chargers can interfere with it. So if you get a problem with your Theremin, start at the power supply. If it's not making the sound you want it to, start at the power supply, see if there's something plugged in that could be interfering. Then if you've got no volume, like I said, go into the setup menu by pressing setup and scale and have a look if the volume is on 0. If it is, turn presets knob all the way around and I get it back to 100%. It's happened to me halfway through workshops. Suddenly no volume. I don't know why it does it. Glitches, whatever. I have been told by Moog, but don't take my word for it, or even theirs maybe, that something is on the way in terms of an update to the firmware and to the editor. The editor is really old. I think it's at least 5 years old now. So it's very clunky, but you can see there, you can do stuff with it. You can have a go. What I would really advise you to do is when when we finish this, go away and have a play. The other thing I would recommend, it's only because I set it up, I've got a Theremini users Facebook page called Theremini People. There's lots of tips and hints on there, little videos and clips, a lot of which I've done today. Please, you're welcome to join. It's a public group, but it's a private group, but you can see it, ask to join, and I'll let you in, and we'll see how we go from there. But we've also had a couple of special guests, and I've done 2 so far. We had the wonderful Dorrit Chrysler, who had the fantastic experience of playing at the CERN Hadron Collider with a Theremini. So it was like science in a science place, and she gave us a great little interview. And then my last interview was with the wonderful Lydia, and she hasn't paid me to say that. And we talked about her role with the Theremini, because she herself demonstrated, as did Dorrit, on the Moog website. And whatever anybody says to you, and it comes up from time to time, the Theremini is a musical instrument in its own right. You can make music with it. My advice is stick with it, be patient, have a go with the menus, try Theremini mode, and if you get stuck, contact me via the Facebook page and I'll do whatever I can to help you. I'm going to throw it open to questions for a couple of minutes, and then if you like, we can have a bit of a jam session. My favourite thing to jam to, because I'm old, I'm a bit of a 70s child of the progressive rock era, I love jamming to Tangerine Dream, and there's a particular track that we've jammed to before that's on YouTube that I'll give you a couple of minutes and I'll find it. But any more questions, please fire away.
So basically, Roy, you're telling me all the setup that I did following your suggestion about the advanced setup and etc., it will stays there even if my Theremini is shutting off, except for the volume that from time to time is going crazy. Cool. So great.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you ever lose any sounds, you can reload the firmware, and again, the firmware is on the Moog website. If there's enough people tomorrow want me to show you that, I can do it. But what I want to have a look at tomorrow is a bit more, is how to use the MIDI side of it. It's not great, the MIDI side, because it doesn't send note information, but it's quite funky what it can do. So, does anybody want to have a go at jamming? Big thumbs up anywhere? Okay, let me just, I've still got screen share on, I think. Here we go. Yep, let me find. Just 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I get this ready, and then I'll share it with you. There's a very, very super live concert of Tangerine Dream on YouTube from the Boiler Room in the Dekmantel Festival. I probably pronounced that wrong, I do apologise. But that is where I kind of, my go-to listening thing now. Let me go to share the screen. Sound. Right, can everybody see? Let's get rid of that. There's an awful advert. Is that too loud for everybody?
Let's flow a little bit tonight in the era of the
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Or shall I play a bit more of that?
I jam with you. I try to do something with my new animal. Thank you so much, Roy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow is slightly earlier and I'll try and be a little bit more prepared. But if anybody's got anything they want me to cover that I haven't done today, obviously there may be a few people tomorrow that will be new, and so I might have to go over a couple of bits. But really, the Theremini is great. I love it. I do have a Clarivox on order. I think it's coming the day after Santa Claus arrives. Somebody tried to tell me there wasn't one.
Another Santa Claus.
Yeah.
We already waited for one.
Yeah, I think.
The question is just which year?
Say again.
The question is just which year.
I think it's the
Santa
year
Claus
with
is always in
the year
December.
with a Z in it. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it.
you,
I
Roy.
have been absolutely terrified all day about this, so if I sounded a bit nervous, my apologies, but thank you for
Not at
listening.
all. It was brilliant, Roy.
Thank you,
Well
Roy.
done.
Yes.
Super professional, Roy.
Thank you, Greta.
That's great. Yes, we have another session tomorrow, so you will collect your questions until tomorrow and start with it probably when Roy is tomorrow with you. And I know that for Europeans it's been a very long day today, and perhaps you will get sleep and get fresh tomorrow for gymnastic. Don't forget about the homework for ensemble. Remember, okay. But I'm greeting today for the newcomers. So just give me a couple of minutes for preparation, and you relax your ears from the loud Theremini. And we'll just start our Theremin workshop in perhaps 1 minute.
In the meantime, I allow to jump in just to tell you that this very first online Theremin Academy is very different from all the other Theremin Academies we are doing since 12 years. Because normally, after a long day of teaching and learning, everybody, participants and teachers, would go out to the next pub, have some beer, have some fun. This is not possible in this online event, but as a replacement for that, I allowed to open a bottle of French red wine, and I'm drinking to all your health.
I'm going to follow your example because you are a wise man.
Cheers, Thierry.
Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, Prost.
Cheers.
Theremin Pong. I'm gonna be boring and I'm gonna make myself a chamomile because I didn't drink.
Yeah, cheers. Jubiläe forever.
Yeah, I hope, Trautonia, that you will be able to make it to Colmar soon again. And then naturally we walk these 20 meters to the Café Juppie there on the cathedral place. We sit on the terrace and have some beer or wine. And in every case, lots of fun.
Hopefully soon.
That does sound good. Terry, are you in a new home? Did you move? You got a new house, didn't you? Last year?